How are you doing today?
I'm good. I am doing good today. I've just come back from seeing my friends, so I feel like refreshed. Yeah.
So please tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Where do you want me to start? I never really know how to start when people are like, tell me about yourself. I don't know. Like from birth, I could tell you my whole life story. I was born in Sheffield. My parents came here to study, to do their masters. So my mum was actually pregnant on the, I think she found out that she was pregnant with me like a few weeks or like a month after she landed in Sheffield. So she was already pregnant like on the flight. They always tell me this story where they wanted to go do a scuba diving course, except when they were doing the swimming, I think this is how they found out that she was pregnant with me. They wanted to swim so the scuba diving course, and there was a tester to see how well they could swim, but my mum did one length of the pool, and then she was really tired and out of breath, and she was like, I shouldn't be this tired and out of breath, I'm quite a fit person. And then she was like, when was the last time? And then she did a pregnancy test and she was pregnant with me, and then she was like, oh my gosh, I'm meant to start doing a master's, and this baby is arriving. So yeah, that was in 1997 in Sheffield. And then after they finished their masters and had me and everything, they went back for a few years back to Indonesia. So my parents are from Indonesia. So I went back to Indonesia and they taught at the university there in the city of Bandung. And we lived there for a few years, so I actually technically learned how to speak in Indonesian. I spent my first 3 years there, and then they decided that living in Indonesia just wasn't for them, and my mum wanted to pursue a PhD. So then she came back to Sheffield afterwards, and I came with them. And then I started nursery here. I think the first day of nursery I couldn't speak English, and my mum used to tell me stories of how I used to come back home, and here in nursery we learn little nursery rhymes and songs and stuff, and apparently I'd just be babbling and doing all these weird actions, and my mum and dad would be like, what is she doing? But it must be, I always think back and I'm like, how weird is it that children could go into a place that's completely foreign to them, and I'm sure I cried, I'm not really sure, but I didn't understand anything, and yet I picked up the language just so naturally at age 4, and I think that's just so amazing that a kid's brain can do that, and I wish we could do that now. I wish I could just pick up a language just by being exposed to it. But yeah, so I learned English through going to nursery here, and then now you would never guess that English wasn't my first language. And then my mum, that was 2001. And then a couple of years later, she got pregnant with my brother, and I'd already been in school. And then she took a year off doing her PhD. So it took a while for her to get her PhD. And then by that time, we'd kind of settled. We were never meant to live in Sheffield in the UK for the rest of our lives, but we kind of, at that point, I'd started school, and then by the time that she'd finished, my brother has started nursery as well, so they were like, we might as well just let them finish their education, and then we're here 20 years later. So so I grew up in Sheffield, and then I don't really know what else to say about my school life, but then I came to Manchester to study at the University of Manchester to study psychology. I knew I wanted to do psychology from GCSE. I did it at GCSE, and I just I don't even want to say I fell in love, but it was so interesting. It was different to all the other subjects I'd taken. I think, and at this point, I didn't know that half my family were also psychologists. it wasn't like a thing to me, so I found it really interesting that like it drew me to psychology, even though like I had no knowledge of like the fact that half my family were like, my granddad was a psychologist, like my aunties on my mum's side are all like psychologists. So yeah, it's weird. It's like there's something in our genes that like draws us to psychology. Yeah, so I knew that, and then I did it at A-level, and I was one of those few people that was like, I know exactly what I want to do at uni. Manchester wasn't actually my first choice, Bristol was. And at the time I was kind of like upset about it, but like now I don't think I could ever have had the same like amazing time as I had here in Bristol. And it's just one of those things where it's like everything happens for a reason, and I truly believe that. So yeah, I'm not saying though, I had a wonderful time, but it was not easy. It was like, yeah, it was not an easy time. I think the last 3 years when I was doing my degree was one of the hardest, toughest times I've ever been through. I had some really good times, but like I was saying earlier to my friend, we were talking about like uni culture and how it's just so stressful. Yeah, and the lowest of the lows were like the lowest I've ever felt. So it was difficult, but I'm proud of myself for getting through it and doing well. So yeah, I think we've caught up to me now in a nutshell. Yeah, and now I'm back in Manchester, and I've started an internship at the uni. I still haven't left yet. It's a really nice stepping stone though, because it's kind of like I'm getting paid and it's a job, but it's like in the uni and I'm familiar with it, and like my friends are still here, and so it's like a semi-real world thing for like the next 10 months, which is nice. So I don't have to think about anything until 10 months time. So yeah, again, I feel very grateful for like the path that my life has taken, and sometimes I'm like, I feel like I don't deserve this, but yeah, I don't know what else to say now. That spiel has like ended.
You did talk a lot about your family. What does family mean to you?
What does family mean to me? I think it means people who you aren't afraid to be yourself around, and people who you know will like accept you and love you in all ranges of who you are. So like when you're at your worst and when you're at your best. And so that doesn't necessarily mean like they have to be blood related. I feel like your family can be anyone you meet and anyone you get to know. So yeah, I think a true meaning of family is where you can truly, honestly be 100% yourself around and know that they're not going to turn you away and love you just the way you are. So yeah, I love my family. I'm a very family-oriented person, which I think I felt a little, not guilty of, but like when you're at uni, I think you're expected to be like, oh, you're independent now, and like, because I moved away, I was like really determined to be like, I don't know, an adult, I guess. But I found myself missing my family so much because it was the first time I moved away. And I'm sure you guys have like felt this as well, especially as international students. Like I've only moved an hour away from my hometown and I felt so homesick first year. And I told myself like I couldn't only go home at Christmas or like Easter or reading week. But then eventually I was like, no, I could go home every weekend if I want to, because I have that within my like ability to. It's like an hour away and it's pretty affordable, and why should I be ashamed of liking being at home? I don't know, yeah. So I think that's what family means to me.
Why did you choose to be interviewed in Chapter 1 Books?
Well, I remember you first asked me like if I would do it, and like if so where, and my first thought would be like in a park or somewhere in nature, but it's October and that's just, I don't want to be out in the cold. But so at first I thought nature because I always feel so at peace whenever I'm surrounded by green and just the sounds of nature. I love it. But then my second choice was a coffee shop because that's the second place that I feel most at peace and comfort. Like, I don't know, whenever I'm having a bad day or I feel like really unproductive, I feel like just going to like a small coffee shop is just the best, because I don't know, it's like you're with people because there's this constant hum of like conversation, but you don't have to be with people, and I think that's like my nice happy medium. I don't want to say I'm like introverted or extroverted because it's just about extreme and stuff like that, and I don't want to get into all this MBTI stuff, but yeah, it's like I feel lonely, but sometimes it's just so draining for me to like talk to people. So yeah, coffee shops are like that nice middle place where you're not alone, but you're alone. And Chapter One specifically because it is one of my favourite coffee shops ever. In all the places I've been to, is because it's a bookshop and a coffee shop, and that's like two of my like favourite things. Yeah, that's one.
How would your friends describe you?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm tempted to ask you back how you would describe me, but I know that's not the point of this. I think they describe me as a good listener, kind, I don't know, someone who gives relatively good advice. I'm just thinking, I feel like my uni friends might describe me as someone slightly different to my home friends. And I've thought about this previously, like it's not like I'm a completely different person, but it is kind of like you adapt yourself to whoever you're with. And obviously like I met my home friends when I was like 14, and obviously I'm a different person than I was from when I was 14. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel like, yeah, I think the main things are I'm a good listener, I give good advice. I think my home friends have seen me a lot more in times where I've been like super hyper and like high on sugar. And so in that sense, I think they could call me a little bit like crazy. I laugh at my own jokes a lot. They're like the worst jokes ever. I'm one of those persons that like loves puns. And so I just make the worst jokes. And I'm the only one that laughs at them. So yeah. Easily made fun of for my home friends. I'm like the one that people pick on, but it's okay. Strong, I guess, I think would be one word. Yeah, it's weird. I feel, yeah, I don't know how other people see me. I'm tempted to like, I feel like what I'm saying is just what I think other people see me as, and I know that's like true because you can't, obviously, but maybe people see stuff that I don't see, and I'm sure that's true. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Would you describe yourself in the qualities that you just think your friends would describe you as?
I think so.
Three qualities, what would they be if you were describing yourself to aliens or to people you've never met?
I guess if I was describing myself to someone I'd never met, I would say I am a good listener. I'd like to say I'm a good empathizer too, but I would also be like I worry a lot. I think that's the thing. Yeah, I get stressed and worry very easily. So I think that's the three most important things that someone would have to know about me. Yeah.
What makes you angry?
What makes me angry? Oh, actually, this morning I was quite angry because my parents, mostly my dad, but my parents like to like send articles or like interesting videos in the morning, and then like in like one of our group chats, we have like one for each platform, which is, I don't know, that's my dad, but and then they send it and they'd be like, what do you think of this? And then we'd either, if we were all at home, we'd like have a discussion over breakfast, or normally, because I'm away, like they'd have it all on this chat. And it was like a 16-minute video that my mum found on Facebook, and it was this guy, I think he was like a motivational speaker, and he literally just spent 16 minutes just like totally roasting millennials, and it got on my nerves so much, and I don't understand, I don't know why. It was so generalizing. Like, he was saying how millennials are so lazy nowadays because of X, Y, Z, and it was like, he started off with like parenting, and then he talked about like everything is handed to us because of all the technology, it's so instant, which makes us like impatient, and everything he's saying to me was just wrong. Like, I couldn't finish the video because I got so irritated. I think it's and I think it's like one of the things that makes me really angry is when people make assumptions. It just really, it annoys me so much, because to me it says that that person's like, it's ignorant, and it's also, they don't take the time to really like research and get to understand other people's perspectives. And this guy's like, he's older, he's not a millennial, and he's a white middle-aged guy, and I'm like, how do you know what we've lived through? And it was just so generalized, and I hate people who generalize as well. It's like, there's literally like a whole generation of millennials, and people born in like, apparently like the official like birth date of millennials is from like 1984 to like 2000 something, I don't know. And that's like, even between like 1980 and being born in 97, like we have such different experiences. I don't know, it just really got on my nerves. And I was like, just really got on my nerves. Oh yeah, and he was talking about like social media addiction, and that really got me. Because not only that I'm really interested in social media, and like I now work in social media, but like it's just the way that he was talking about social media addiction. It's like, it's not well researched and not well known about in like addiction and social media. Like, addiction in itself is such a difficult topic. It's like, where is the line between addiction and stuff? And like alcoholism and drug addiction has been researched quite extensively. But it's like, it's not the same as substance abuse and a social media thing. Social media is still so new, and he just kept going on like he knew everything about it, and I'm just like, I'm here like, no. Like, even psychologists themselves don't know what addiction truly is in terms of social media. Like, no one's decided that line, and it just annoys me when people trivialize addiction. It's like, it's a real clinical problem, and when you kind of like, not dumb it down, but like like trivialize it and say like, this trait is addiction, it's kind of like it then makes people with an actual case of addiction less severe than they actually are, and then it kind of goes into that like mindset of like, oh, all they need to do is just like stay away from it for a while. But it's not that simple, and I don't know, it really got on my nerves. Yeah, I don't know
What makes you happy?
what makes me happy. Seeing friends, seeing family, spending time with family never fails to make me happy. Talking with my brother. My brother is like, I think, my best friend in the entire whole world. And he won't say the same, because he's a 15-year-old boy, and they never think that they're like being friends with their sister is cool. But yeah, I don't know, every time I have a conversation, it's like we get each other. we always joke that we're now the same height, and everyone has always said our whole lives that we look so alike, and so now we just joke that we're twins, and we just get each other like. We've always got each other. Like I was always the one that was translating whatever his like gobbledygook was to my parents when he was younger, and even now, like sometimes he has a way of like explaining things that is, I don't know, unique, I guess. Like he rambles a lot, and yeah, I don't know. I sometimes have to like explain like he actually just means this to my parents, but yeah, and he's so funny. He's like the funniest person I know. Yeah, my brother makes me happy. Sleep makes me happy. I like sleep. Musicals. I've literally just like been exclusively listening to musicals. Like my Spotify is just musicals. I love going to the theatre. There's just something about watching a live show. I don't know what it is. It's just watching something live, and it's that atmosphere, and just knowing that everyone enjoys their job so much. Like, yeah, just putting 100% effort into that something on stage, and to think that people have created this from their mind and work so hard to, I don't know, I just love the magic of musical theatre. That always makes me so happy. The last show I watched was Hamilton. I'm like a huge Hamilton fan. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, when I heard it was coming to the West End, I was like, oh my gosh. And then my dad got tickets for us all, and I saw it in February. It was amazing. It was so good. Oh yeah, I just love musical theatre. I'm also going to see Wicked in December at the Palace Theatre with my mum, and I'm so excited. I've literally just been listening to the Wicked soundtrack just all day, every day. Yeah, I love how for musical theatre it's like you can listen to the cast recording and like still get like an amazing sense of, oh my gosh, that melody was like this or that. But then you watch it and it's just a whole different story. Like you know the music so well, but then watching it, it's like hearing it and watching it for the first time again. You get so many different new perspectives, because obviously like visuals with audio is a different thing. Yeah, and I love that. And I also love how like going to see the same show twice isn't the same show twice. Like I've been to see Les Mis twice in the West End, so it was the same time, and it was pretty much the same company. They like hadn't changed round yet, but it both were so different because different nights are different and different audiences, and I love that. I love how it just depends on the audience at the time and where it is and the atmosphere on that night. Yeah, I love it. I always thought like if I got into singing and dancing and drama when I was younger, I might have maybe done that as like a career maybe, I don't know, but if I was ever talented enough. But I guess it's like I know everyone says it's never too late to do anything, but I think when it comes to like musical theatre, it's too late to do something right now, as I have like no formal training. But yeah, it's amazing. I love musical theatre.
I love how much you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your favorite thing in the world?
Yeah, at the moment, I tend to like I have periods of like obsession. I mean, musical theatre has been obsessive for like a while, but yeah, I have periods of obsessions, I think.
If you could change something about the world, what would you change?
Such a big question. If I could change something, it's like one thing, however many. I wish humans would have more empathy with each other in general. It's like, it's human nature to have groups and communities and have the other, but I wish that that barrier between different groups was less or even not there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like but then that's like human nature and what makes us human, and so I feel weird saying I wish that had changed, because, and I feel like that's something like my faith has taught me. So like I was born Muslim, and like I've been taught and raised as a Muslim, and it's kind of like we're taught that God has made humans as they are. God has made humans flawed. So yeah, but then I just feel like the world would be in such a better place if we found a better way to communicate between groups as humans. But then again, it's like, I'm sure God would have thought of that if he wanted to. Like, it's his plan. I just think the crux of all the problems in the world right now is literally just a lack of empathy. So I wish we had a little bit more of that in the world. Because then it would be like, I don't know, I guess we wouldn't have so many wars. We wouldn't have so much like blaming of each other of like the world's problems. And also like not just empathy between humans, but empathy for like the planet as well. Like environmentalism has been such a big thing recently, and like it's something also I've been getting into. Because another thing that Islam teaches us is that we are stewards of this earth. Like it's not ours to kind of take and rule, but it's ours to protect. And I think humans have lost sight of that as well. So yeah, I think that's what I'd change, but it's something you can't change. So yeah.
What is your superpower like?
My superpower, I don't know. I don't know if I have a superpower. Do you mean like what I would want as a superpower, or like what I consider to be like my best skill? Okay, I don't know. I think my superpower is also my super flaw. I think I'm quite an analytical person. I think a lot. Like an observational and analytical person. So because of that, I think I'm quite empathetic. And I think that's what makes me a good listener and a good advice giver, because like when I talk to someone, I feel like I can, I don't know, take in all the bits of information, even stuff that like behind what they say, and kind of make a whole picture of it and then analyze it and break it down and think, okay, what are the components here and what can they do about it? But then I think that's also my flaw in that I overthink things, like way too much, especially in terms of me. Like, I'm quite proud of the fact that I'm self-aware. I think I am self-aware in that I know what makes me feel like what, and I know, I guess, like the range of my emotions and what triggers me and stuff like that. But I also just overthink everything. Like I overthink the little bits, and sometimes that makes me stall and kind of freeze because I think, oh, what would happen if this happens? Because I don't know, I have a tendency to be like, I want to know what might happen. Like, I want to know all the consequences if I take this step so that I can make a decision. And sometimes that's not the best way to go about deciding something. So, but at the same time, like, being analytical and evaluative and just like weighing things up is a really good skill to have. So, yeah. It's my superpower and also my super flaw. Yeah.
What superpower would you like to have?
What superpower would I like to have?
Supernatural superpower.
I think I've always liked the thought of either being invisible or being able to shapeshift. And maybe that comes back to the fact that I think I'm really observational and analytical. So I just feel like I could be in like an event that's happening without anyone noticing I'm there and just watch everything. Yeah. Actually, probably shapeshift though, because I think that's more useful. Because then, like, if I needed to like fly away really quickly, I could just shapeshift into an eagle and just fly away. Yeah, shapeshifting.
What's the baby Aliya?
So what was that? Sorry.
Baby.
Baby me. My mum says baby me was very moody, which isn't much different from now me. She says baby me slept a lot. Again, not much different than now me. Yeah, I cried a lot as a baby. She always compares me as a baby and my brother as a baby. So my brother as a baby is like really happy-go-lucky. He hardly ever cried, whereas like I cried a lot. I slept a lot. I didn't sound like a very fun baby. Yeah. Also, people thought I was a boy. So that's like my mum like pierced my ears when I was still a baby, just so that like people knew that I was a girl. So yeah, baby me was apparently looked like a boy, cried a lot, slept a lot. Yeah, I don't think I would have liked me as a baby. Like I've watched home videos of me when I was not like a baby, like 1 or 2, or when I was just about like starting to talk, and I was like the whiniest toddler ever. And if I met a toddler like me now, I'd absolutely get so annoyed at them. Yeah, I wouldn't want to look after me as a baby or as a toddler. So hats off to my parents, because I wouldn't want that job. Yeah, it's me as a baby.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh my gosh. I have no idea. If you asked me that like 5 years ago, like where do you see yourself when you're like, how old am I now? 21? Like 30. I'd be like, I'd be married with kids and like amazing career. Like I used to have my life planned, like literally planned out. My life was gonna be like, I went to uni, I'd meet the love of my life at uni, and then after we graduated, we'd get married, and then we'd start our careers, and then I'd have my first kid at like 25, 26, 27, then I'd have my second kid at like 29, 30, 31, and then I'd like settle down, maybe have a third kid, who knows. But like I am now at 21, I have not met the love of my life. I don't envision meeting the love of my life anytime soon. And even if I do, I don't see myself getting married that quickly. And I can't imagine having a baby at 25, to be honest. Because like 4 years goes by so fast, and I know you can change a lot in 4 years, but like even 4 years from now, I don't see myself having a kid. So, and I think the last 5 years has taught me like you can't plan that far ahead. And I think that's just something I've had to learn as well, just to like take things as they come and go, and like you go through things at your own pace and on your own timeline, and that's okay. That's been a big learning curve, I think. So where I see myself in 10 years, I don't know, but hopefully content and happy. Yeah. Whatever that means in 10 years.
What does happiness mean to you?
What does happiness mean to me? That's also another interesting question, and I'm going to go back into like my deeply analytical, deep thinking again. I went to this talk with my parents the other week, I think it was, and it was part of the off-the-shelf literature festival, which is like around Sheffield. And this doctor called Dean Burnett came to speak, and he was talking about his new book, The Happy Brain. So his previous book was called The Stupid Brain, The Idiot Brain. That was like a big bestseller. So he was talking about what is happiness in terms, because he's a neuroscientist. So he was talking about what is happiness in terms of like the chemicals in your brain, and he was saying how there really is no like one definition of happiness. Like this, I think we have this culture that's like always striving for like this eternal happiness, but that's just not how the brain works. So he was saying how happiness is actually just a temporary state that your brain gives you to handle something. So for example, like he talked about like dopamine and oxytocin and those chemicals that you associate with what is called happiness, but you are never meant to have that high level of dopamine or oxytocin like 24/7. Like that's just not a natural process for the brain. So like for example, an excess of dopamine, it has been linked to like schizophrenia. So obviously like if you're happy in terms of like if you have loads of dopamine, if that's what you define as being happy, it's not a good thing for you. And obviously this is a really like scientific discussion of happiness, and it was really interesting. And so yeah, it's something I'm still trying to work out what happiness means to me. Because I think I mentioned previously, like these last 3 years have been quite hard for me, and so I've struggled a bit with like depression and things like that. And so yeah, the question of like what is happiness is really interesting, because obviously with depression it's a clinical sadness, where you feel sad in an unproportionally amount of time or like intensity. And it's something I've been thinking about quite a lot, because it's like I've gotten to a place where I feel better generally. Like I'm having less down days and I'm having more normal days. But then I keep thinking like, but I think I've lost sight of what is a normal day. And in my mind, I think I'm striving to be like really happy every day, which isn't normal. And I know that before I had this diagnosis, I'm sure I had down days where I felt sad. And it's now like when I have a down day and when I have a sad day, like everyone has sad days, but when I have a sad day, I always think, is this depression or is it just a normal sad day? And I'm trying to find what that definition is for me, and I haven't quite found that yet. And I always, and I think, is it because of the label? Like, is it because I've been diagnosed with it? And like now I'm aware that I have depression. And so that makes me think about it more. And then it goes deeper and it's like, maybe I'm overthinking of it because I have depression. I don't know, it's like this cycle I go through like all the time. But yeah, I think ideally happiness is, if you look at like, say, your week in general and you feel like you've had down days, but you've had good days, and overall, like, I guess like 60% of it is okay and you're content with what you've done that week, I think that's what happiness is. But again, it's a definition that I'm still trying to work out, still not sure. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said earlier, like there are things that make me happy. Like I've been happy this weekend because I've been with my friends and I've laughed a lot and things like that. But a prolonged happiness, I don't know what that is yet. So maybe then happiness means a journey. I don't know. Yeah.
Does love mean?
Love. Oh. I've never been like romantically in love, but love in general, I think, means caring for someone in a way that's like you want the best for them, even if it's not the best for you. I think love means a certain amount of self-sacrifice and compromise, but it also means fulfillment and being loved. I don't know how to say that without using the word love. I don't know. I think love just means caring. Like my experience of love is just caring and hoping and praying for this person or thing that I love is okay and is content with whatever it is that means content to that person or thing. Yeah. I don't know how else to say it. Love means hugs and laughter and smiles and being with someone and having a good time. Yeah.
Would you be able to give us any, if you could give yourself a piece of advice to end this, what would you tell future Aliya watching this in 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years?
Be present. Just experience life. And I think that's a big thing that I will always have to remind myself to do. Because as I said, I just have a tendency to overthink things and like try and predict the future and think about, oh, I should have done this wrong or that, like I did this wrong or that wrong, and I think I just have to reminding myself that like you're living right now and you should be present in this moment and enjoy where you're at, because there will always be a time in the future that you are like, wow, that was a moment in my life that I had, and sometimes you don't fully remember it or because you were too caught up in thinking about the future. So that's the biggest advice I always have for myself, is be present.
Thank you so much, Aliya.
Thank you. I've really looked forward to this. Yeah.